Hello friends, and welcome to my channel if you're new, or welcome back if you're back. Either way, thank you so much for clicking on my video today. If you are new, hi, my name is Rabbit and my pronouns are they, them. Okay, so today's video, very exciting. So I do have a couple of purses that I very much enjoy, but for the longest time I've been really wanting an Emily the Strange purse. I don't know, I got it in my head, like I didn't see one that I specifically wanted, I just like got it in my head that I wanted like a red purse with Emily the Strange stuff on it, and like every time I went to the thrift store for the past couple months, I've like just been like looking out for an Emily the Strange like coin purse or wallet or like something like that, just being like, I know I'll find one. And then it occurred to me like, freaking make one. You can just make one if you can't find one. So I ended up finding this bag. I'll put a picture of it here for about $5.50 at my local thrift store. It looks kind of small, but it's actually quite spacious. I can fit all my stuff in it. Like I can fit my coffee mug for work, like a bag with like hand lotion and hand sanitizer and tissues and like all that kind of stuff in it. And I can finally have a wallet again because before none of my bags could actually like fit a wallet. So it's super exciting. I think it looks really cool and kind of like very mall goth, early 2000s era, but it's everything I ever wanted. It's my very own Emily the Strange bag, and I just wanted to show you guys how I customized it and how it turned out. So without further ado, let me show the baby itself. Da-da-da-da! This is the bag. This is the bag. Alright, so we'll just do a really quick overview. You can skip this part if you're not interested, because obviously this will be all gone into in the video tutorial portion. Timestamps below, as always. So for the back of it, I just attached this spiderweb mesh on the side. More spiderweb fabric, plus a handmade patch by me that just says Emily the Strange. Other side has this old bedsheet material that I had from a while ago. The front has 3 screen printed patches that I made. So this one has Mystery, Nietzsche, Miles, and Sabbath on it. This one I kind of modified. You'll see it looks like much more patchy when I originally made it, but I ended up blacking it out more because I just like thought it looked better. I love this image. I also screen printed it just from an image I found on Google. These are all just from Google Images looking up Emily the Strange. I also made this little bottle cap pin that says Bad Kitten Club, and this little bottle cap pin that has Emily with a slingshot. There's a bunch of safety pins on it, some spikes from an old belt, and some spikes that I just bought online and applied. I will say be cautious about where you put your spikes. You don't want to put them anywhere that they're going to be like annoying to you when you're wearing it. The keyring on the zipper I changed out because the original one I put on was kind of delicate. I changed it to just be a keychain ring with a little silver skull. This is much more sturdy. I feel much more comfortable about yanking this guy around. This is some grommet tape at the top, some little star studs that I found at the thrift store, and oh, how could I forget, my little Miles keychain? My little Miles keychain that I made out of felt and stuck on there, and I just think it's super cute. It's huge, it has zipper pocket and regular pocket, and I just feel like finally I'm going to have a purse again, because for a long time I was anti-purse. I would only use a backpack because I was like, I can carry like 3 books and my water bottle, snacks and chips and bags and everything I need in a backpack, so why would I ever use a purse? But then I started finding really cute purses, being like, okay, I want to have like a cute little purse. And then I was like, well, none of them fit anything. So finally, the solution was to customize this. So I hope that maybe this video can give you some inspiration to make something of your own, to remember that like alternative subcultures have so much potential for amazing DIY stuff, and you absolutely do not have to support big companies, buy your stuff. You can like make your stuff, or if you can't make your own stuff, you can like support local artists in your scene and like keep your scene alive, and just like, yes, very passionate about DIY. So I hope that this video can inspire some of you, and I really appreciate you for watching. Let's get into the video. I'm sorry for rambling for so long. Alright, let's go. So we're starting out by making a couple of Emily patches. As usual, I just Google Emily the Strange, find some pictures online, print them out, and glue down the image to a piece of vinyl transfer paper. I have a video that goes really in depth into stenciling and how to do it, but it's pretty straightforward. Once everything is glued down, you want to take a little X-Acto knife and cut out all the parts that you will want to have stenciled and pick everything out. For your giant spots, I like to keep little support tabs that I will cut out with tiny nail scissors. I think I ended up making 4 or 5 different stencils for this, but I didn't use all of them. And you can peel the backing off your vinyl sticker, cut off all those little tabs that are unnecessary with nail scissors, and you can double check to make sure you didn't miss any tabs by flipping over your piece, especially if it's on a dark background, to make sure that everything is good to go. I'm using screen printing ink and an old makeup sponge to get everything inked in. One thing that I kind of forgot to do was to be really light on my layers and do multiple instead of doing one thick heavy layer. It tends to prevent the smudging and kind of bleeding that I did have occur with a couple of patches in this. But I'm doing one patch of Emily's cats, one of Emily as like an angel and devil kind of situation, a couple of just like her face. I just leave them overnight to dry, and in the morning I am able to peel off all of the stickers and witness how my beautiful patches turned out. I'm really happy with them. I always just make them on scrap fabric and like old sheets and stuff like that from the thrift store, and I think it's just such a fun, easy, and really cheap way to make your own custom stuff. I always recommend choosing images that have kind of a high contrast and less small details, but once you have a bit of practice, you can get crazy detailed and make some really tiny little cuts and stuff like that, and fill all the extra little things in with fabric markers and ink and stuff. As you can see in the angel and devil patch, it's really fine lines, so I wanted to use some fabric markers to fill in everything. Normally I would do this with like a little paintbrush and screen printing ink, but I find that fabric markers are just a little bit quicker and easier, and I'm just using the original image as a reference as I get all my details in there. And once everything's nice and colored in, I like to use my iron to fold down all the edges so I have nice crisp edges to my patches. This isn't necessary, but if you are going for a cleaner look, highly recommend it. If you're going for a more rugged look, this totally isn't necessary. You can have all your frayed edges and it can look really cool, so do whatever you feel comfortable on this step, obviously with your patches. And I wasn't really feeling the amount of white on some of these patches, so I ended up going back once they had been fully painted with some red screen printing ink and adding in extra layers. Really nice and close, so I was happy about that. Then I set all my patches aside and it's time to work on the bag itself. So first I'm removing this giant wooden button because it just did not go with the vibe that I wanted. And it's a nice big bag, so I'm making sure that it's all puffed out to its proper capacity and taking this spiderweb fabric that I found at the fabric store around Halloween and kind of laying it over the bag and very roughly chopping a section of it that will go over the bag. If you want to be more precise about this, you can make yourself a little pattern with some paper beforehand, and I'll show that in a moment, but for this I was feeling inspired, and when I'm inspired I tend to rush things. Once it's all cut out, I can pin down the fabric in the area that I want it to go, and I just use a needle and thread to hand stitch it down on all the edges. I didn't want to bother trying to get this purse into my sewing machine at this point, so with this project I'm pretty much just doing hand sewing. I would recommend, if you're finding trouble like I did poking your needle through your fabric, use a thimble. Don't bother hurting yourself in your little fingers because you're stubborn and don't want to look for one. Next, for the pockets that are kind of U-shaped, I wanted to make a little pattern, so I'm taking some wrapping paper and a little measuring tape and measuring how long and how deep the pocket will go, and then just kind of drawing a really rough pattern in the vague shape that I want, then cutting that out, folding it in half so I get it nice and symmetrical, and then just trimming it until it is the correct size for the pocket. And then I'm taking some old bedsheet fabric and cutting it out the pattern that I have just made. I'm leaving a little bit of space for the seam allowance, and then pinning down all my little corners, and I just use my sewing machine to really quickly sew everything down. So we are good to go. Once the pocket kind of is ready, I pin it to the pocket that's there, and I'm just going ahead and sewing it all the way down. I like to leave the top open so it kind of acts as an extra pocket, and since there's two of these little shapes on both sides of the bag, I'm using my pattern again on some spiderweb fabric, cutting that out, and making myself another little pocket cover situation, and use my sewing machine to secure all those edges down. Once I'm done, I thought it looked cool, but a little bit plain, so I decided to add my screen printed Emily the Strange logo patch onto it. So I'm just using some pins to get it in place before I use my sewing machine to secure it completely. And once it's sewed down, I can hand stitch it onto my bag. Again, I like to leave the top open so I get an extra pocket in there, even though this bag has so many pockets. Next, I'm taking my handmade screen printed patches, and as you can tell, I did add red around the kitty one as well. And the screen printing ink I have actually matches the shade of this bag like almost perfectly, so it almost looks like patches are made directly onto the bag. So that was super exciting. But basically, I am just pinning down all of the patches in a way that I like the layout and can see as much of them as possible. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fit everyone, but I got 4 out of 5 on there, so pretty good. Once everything's pinned down, I'm using my needle and thread to hand sew it all down. Again, I left the top open on most of them except for the kitty one, just so I can have that opportunity to have little secret extra pockets. And I tried to do this kind of diffused look with the Emily patch I'm sewing right now. It's supposed to look like fog or something, but I really didn't like it, so you'll see that it changes later. Once all my patches are on, I wanted to make a little bag charm, and my favorite of Emily's cats is Miles. If you don't know, he's the one with one eye, and I think he's super cute. To make my little stencil, I just look up a picture of him online that I like, and very vaguely sketch out a pattern, basically just my little artistic rendition of that picture that I liked. I didn't want to make a huge keychain, so I just decided to make his head. Don't worry about it being even because we're going to cut everything folded in half to ensure symmetry, but if you want it wonky, that is also cool. Take my wrapping paper, fold it in half, and then use my scissors to cut out the pattern of the head and then the skull and all the ears and everything. Originally, I wanted to make this a stuffed keychain, but I ended up doing it flat. If you want to stuff yours, I think that that is also a really cool idea. But basically, I'm taking some black felt from the dollar store, pinning down my stencil to it, and cutting out the shape that I require of the head. I'm making 2 of them, A, because I originally thought I would make it like a little plushie, and B, so it will cover up all my messy stitching from the inside. Once I have 2 of my head pattern, I can cut out all the other little facial details like the eyes. The nose and the mouth I will just be stitching because they are so small, but I can do the skull with white felt from the dollar store, and the little ear bones out of white felt from the dollar store as well. So I'm going ahead and cutting out all my little bits and pieces. Once everything's cut out, I can pin it all down with some sewing pins, and if you don't feel like doing more hand sewing, you can totally just glue everything down with fabric glue, but I thought it would look kind of cool to have the stitching visible on this since I hadn't tried that before. So I'm just using my needle and thread to go around and stitch everything in place. It also feels a little bit more secure than fabric glue since I have had a couple of issues with it in the past, but it's not the biggest deal. And once the front of it is done, I am inserting a little piece of folded over ribbon, so I have kind of like a tab, putting a pin through it, and then sewing that down the center so it's very secure. And once the loop is on, I can take my 2 pieces of the head and sew it together so all of my messy stitching is invisible and it feels a little bit more secure. And then I just attach an old keyring to the top of my loop, and we have a keychain good to go. So now it's just time to decorate and accessorize. So I'm taking some grommet tape and just attaching it to the top. I think it looks really cool. Grommet tape is a really easy alternative to putting grommets in yourself. Next, to put my keychain on, since I didn't want to put it right on the zipper, I wanted to attach like a little metal loop that it could live on by itself. Hand stitching it onto the corner of the bag. I'm doing a lot of layers of stitching so it's very nice and secure, but if you're very worried about this, I would probably stitch it on all sides, and once it's on there, I can attach a little O-ring and then attach the keyring to that O-ring, seal it shut, and my little Miles charm is on there, and I think he looks so cute and really I think he's my favorite part of the bag. Next, I'm just attaching a couple extra safety pins, and then I have a little charm with like a cat and a moon on it. This has since fallen off my bag, so I've put a sturdier one on that has like a keyring with a skull on it. Then I'm poking a couple of holes into the side of the bag so I can attach some little spikes. You can find spikes at studsandspikes.com and online on like Amazon and stuff like that, but you know, you can also take them off of belts and dog collars and stuff, so I'll show you guys how to do that later, but for now, just using these spikes on the side, and I think they look really cute. If your bag is a really thin material and you want to add some spikes, I'd recommend adding some washers between the nails and the spikes so they don't fall out. And next I wanted to make a couple of bottle cap pins for my bag. Basically, I'm tracing out a little stencil for how big the interior of each bottle cap will be and how big my pin can be. And then I'm taking some UV resin and attaching a little dollop of it into the pin. You can also use like Mod Podge or something like that. And then I ended up using glitter in a bunch of these pins, but I ended up not using them in the bag eventually because I don't think it really went. But regardless, I have a bunch of sparkly Emily the Strange Cat pins now, so it is what it is. I'm adding a bunch of epoxy and then a bunch of red and black glitter, and then to my last two, I'm just adding these designs that I found online and printed out. So using a little bit of epoxy spread around, and then this picture of Emily with a slingshot, and this picture that says Bad Kitten Club with all of Emily's cats there. Then I'm just covering that in a little extra epoxy and sticking that under the UV lamp to cure. For the glitter ones, these are a little more fun. I cut out all the little pictures of Miles, Nietzsche, Sabbath, and Mystery that I found online. I put a bunch of UV resin on top, and while it's still wet, I can attach all my little charms and stickers and things. I'm using mostly like little things that I think are originally nail gems that I found at the thrift store and online, but there's also a couple little gems from the dollar store. You can also use tiny stickers, pieces of glitter, basically anything really small. Little dried flowers, little rhinestones, and I'm using a toothpick. I found that's the best tool to move things around in resin. Then I cure everything together under the UV lamp once I'm satisfied with the designs, and use a little bit of super glue to attach a pin backing to it. You can also use a safety pin if you don't have a pin backing, but I would recommend investing in these because you can find them easily at the dollar store, and they just make pin making quite a lot easier if you're planning to make a lot of them. And super glue is way more long lasting than hot glue in my experience. So this is how all my little pins turned out, and I think they look really cute, but I honestly think I just made too many for my bag because when I had them all on there, it just was a little bit much. All that's left now is just attaching a couple of extra safety pins and the bottle cap pins that I just made to really finish up the bag, make it all really decked out and fun and interesting to look at. I love adding different colors and textures, and you can add things like Halloween plastic bones or little hooks and random things from the hardware store, whatever you want. It's your thing. I also found these little star studs from the thrift store a long time ago, so I'm attaching those. I think they look super, super cool. I also have this studded belt that I found at the thrift store in order to remove its spikes, and I am just using a little kind of flat metal tool to take those off. I think a screwdriver would work really handy in this situation, and I pull those out, and then I can just use them to stick onto the bag. The spikes I'm using have two little teeth, so I just poke them through and then use a pair of pliers to bend them into shape so that they won't come out. And originally I put them all down the front, but I didn't like how it looked, so I just stuck with the first three. And though it's a little asymmetrical, I think it works, and I'm really happy with the final result of the bag. Again, of course, if you wanted to do something like this, you don't have to make an Emily the Strange bag. You can make a bag of whatever you want. You can make it of a character or just a general aesthetic, or your favorite holiday, hint hint Halloween, or vampires, or whatever you want. It doesn't have to be like this, and I obviously don't expect anyone to make anything exactly like this, just kind of sharing a video for inspiration, but I hope that you did find it somewhat helpful or useful and maybe got some ideas for your own customs. So I wish you luck with those, and I really thank you for watching. That's all I got for you today. I really hope you enjoyed watching the process of me make this delightful new bag. I feel like it's gonna be my everyday bag for the foreseeable future because it's just like so large and so comfortable, and I can just like fit all my stuff, but it's like nice weight distribution, and it's like cute, and it's like DIY'd, so like I haven't really gotten any compliments on it yet, but if I do, I can be like, thanks, I made it. So I'm very excited about yeah, just being able to have like fun, unique DIY things of my favorite characters, because it's so annoying when you're like, I want this thing, and then you like look up online for that thing and you find it on Depop for like $75, and you're like, well, that doesn't feel quite fair. So yes, DIY your own merch and go forth and have fun, my friends. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye for now.